When night falls, everything changes. This is when even the most courageous people become afraid. In the dark hours, an unlucky pair of hunters find themselves trapped in the woods. Darkness encircles them like a predator, turning every shadow into a monster. Their flashlights pierce the blackness, but for how long? Will they be able to get out of there alive, or will the forest take their lives? Here's the full story. It was just another ordinary day. Two friends decided to go hunting wild boar. They were experienced hunters, so they were sure that they would be back home soon with their prey. However, what they didn't know was that this hunt would be the last thing they ever do in their lives. They went deep into the woods. They followed the trails, climbed hills, and walked through but after some time, they realized that they had lost their way. The sun began to sink lower in the sky, painting the trees in shades of orange and red. The friends started to panic. One of them said, "We should have been back hours ago. I'm scared we'll never make it out." The other reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, we'll be fine. Let's just stay calm and keep moving." They had no choice but to push on. With each step, fear eaten at them. The trees seemed to lean in, their branches entwining above them, forming a roof that blocked out the last rays of sunlight. As the last bit of sunshine faded away, they were surrounded by pitch black. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, but it was little comfort as every tree and bush seemed to be hiding something. The deeper they went, the more panicked they became. The darkness was a living thing now, a hungry beast that was waiting to pounce. They could hear strange noises all around them, the crack of a twig, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves. Each sound made them jump. They felt like they were being watched, that some unseen entity was following them, studying their every move. Then they heard it, a noise that made their blood run cold. The sound of heavy footsteps. They turned around, their flashlights darting around, but they saw nothing. The footsteps came closer, louder now, as if whatever was making them was gaining on them. They ran, their flashlights beam wobbling, their hearts racing. They could hear their own breathing, loud in their ears. They ran until they couldn't run anymore. They collapsed on the forest floor, clutching each other, shaking, trying to catch their breath. The footsteps had stopped. Silence fell over the forest, a heavy, thick silence that was even more frightening than the noise. They sat there, paralyzed by fear, not knowing what was out there in the darkness, what was watching them. But then they heard a voice, a man's voice. "Hello, is anyone there?" The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Help me!" they cried, their voices trembling. The voice got closer. "I need help!" Then they saw a figure emerging from the darkness. The figure came closer still, and they could make out the man's face. He was tall and thin, his eyes wide and scared. "Please help me," he said, his voice a whisper. But then he took a step forward, and they saw what was on his chest, a gash that seemed to go all the way through. Blood oozed out, staining his clothes red. And then he opened his mouth, and they saw the flesh hanging loose on his jaw, revealing teeth that were long and sharp and not human. They screamed and ran, falling, scrambling to their feet and running deeper into the woods. They could hear the creature behind them, its footsteps heavy and fast. It was gaining on them. They could feel its hot breath on their necks, smell the foul odor of its blood. They ran until their lungs burned and their legs ached. They had to get away, had to find somewhere to hide. They saw a cave and plunged into it, the entrance collapsing behind them. They sat in the cave, huddled together, listening to the sounds of the forest. They could hear the creature outside, roaring in frustration, its claws scrambling on the rocks. It tried to get in, but they stood their ground, wailing and making as much noise as they could. The creature outside slowed down. Then there was silence, a silence that was even more frightening than the creature's roaring. Then they heard footsteps approaching the cave. They cowered, believing it was the creature come back for them. But then a light appeared, piercing the darkness. Men's voices reached them, calling out into the night. They answered, their voices cracking. The light grew brighter. the voices louder. The cave opening appeared larger, and they were pulled out into the night. They were weak and barely conscious. They were pulled onto a stretcher and lifted into an ambulance. When they finally woke up, they were in a hospital bed. Doctors and nurses rushed to their side, asking them questions that they couldn't answer. They were too weak. They were too scared. The creatures had taken too much from them. The hunters had been found, but it wasn't the same for everyone. As days passed, it became clear that the creature had infected them. One hunter died, while the other was left severely disabled, unable to live a normal life. The town where the incident occurred closed ranks, trying to suppress the news of what had happened. But rumors swirled. People whispered of a beast that walked the woods at night, looking for its next victim. The truth of what had happened to the hunters remained buried, a dark secret that the town shared. They talked in low voices about the dangers that lurked in the darkness, about the night that the creature had come for them. But they never went into the woods again. They never wanted to see the creature. That had haunted their worst nightmares. And so the woods remained unscathed, the creature uncaptured, and the mystery of what had happened to the hunters unsolved. You won't believe what these people experienced in the woods. These woods are beautiful during the day, filled with the sounds of birds and the soft rustle of leaves. But when night falls, they become a place of fear and danger. Two friends found this out the hard way when they got lost in the woods one evening and had to spend the night there. As darkness fell, the forest came alive with scary sound. The friends started to panic, thinking they were being stalked by a wild animal. They could hear footsteps following them, getting closer and closer. They ran as fast as they could, trying to escape whatever was behind them. Suddenly, they saw a cave and hid inside. They huddled together in the dark, listening to the sounds outside the cave. Then they heard voices calling out into the night. They were saved, but one of them would never be the same again. As the days passed, it became clear that the creature had infected them both. One of the men died, while the other was left with permanent disabilities. To this day, people in the town still whisper about the beast that haunts these woods, taking its victims into the night.